this one?
Multiple use refers to the utilization of natural resources in combinations that will best meet the present and future needs of the public. Designating land as a wilderness area does not necessarily violate the multiple use philosophy, for even when such use does not provide the greatest dollar return, it can provide the greatest overall benefit from that site. Okay.
So what's going on?
So the conclusion, I think, is designating land use does not necessarily violate the multiple use philosophy.
And what is the multiple use philosophy?
Just basically saying using natural resources in different combinations that will best, like, that will serve the best purposes, that serve a purpose for public. And they're saying, like, just
Okay,
because
okay, so essentially we're saying multiple use is whenever we use natural resources in random combinations that will meet our needs, best meet our needs today and in the future. That's what it's like. We can use stuff, right?
yeah,
So we're saying designating land as wilderness does not necessarily this philosophy. So automatically I'm wanting to connect, what does that first sentence mean with that second sentence? Like what, so essentially like, so designating land as wilderness must, like some combination of that must be able to meet our present and future needs, right?
yeah,
Is that what you do? Like when you got there, would you stop there and think about that?
probably not.
So there's an area of growth too. Like it's okay to go slow, like
Mhm.
pause and reflect on this, because now I want to see like, okay, I'm going to go on, but I really understand this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and then the
Which
last
is my favorite premise indicator word for, okay, anyways.
Even when such use does not provide the greatest dollar return, it can provide the greatest overall benefit from that site. So they're just saying, like, just because it doesn't necessarily violate this principle just because it's not giving us a great dollar return.
Right. So there must be something else that best meets our present and future needs, right? Or some other way to measure it other than financially.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. And what kind of question is this?
Necessary assumption.
Excellent. So it's top down. We want something mild.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So go ahead and start with A.
Natural resources should be used in combinations that will most greatly benefit present and future generations. I want to say no because it's kind of almost like the first sentence, but most is kind of strong
And
lately.
do we agree with this stimulus, or are we like, we literally are just giving what a definition is, or a term is a definition, and saying this situation, it doesn't violate that definition? Are we
Yeah.
what should or should not happen at all?
No.
No, like maybe multiple use is bad. We don't know.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. So that's where I wouldn't like A.
Mhm. B, designating a wilderness area prevents any exploitation of natural resources in that area. Prevents any exploitation. We don't know that for sure though. So
We don't know. Does it need to be true?
no, I mean, we don't know. Just because it's a wilderness area doesn't mean that it, like, people can't hunt. Like, we don't know that.
Okay. But what are we trying to prove? We're trying to prove that designated land as a wilderness does not violate this use.
Yeah, this definition.
Does it need to be true then that designating this area as wilderness prevents any exploitation of natural resources?
No.
No, because it can still exploit some natural resources and still be the best way to use it, right? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so that any's too strong. Fabulous.
Yeah, I was gonna say any would be considered too strong, right?
Like if it would say like designating a wilderness area does not prevent any exploitation, then that would be
Yeah.
I should never mind, that doesn't even make sense.
It would be better than what it is, but yeah.
But yeah.
C, the present and future needs of the public would best be met by designating greater numbers of wilderness areas. I want to say no because like even though we're saying like multiple use will, like the combination will best meet the present and future needs of the public, we don't know that designating greater numbers of wilderness areas is necessarily going to do that. We're just saying it doesn't violate the multiple use.
But like
Doesn't necessarily.
in order to be the multiple use, it does have to be the best, right?
Yeah.
So I actually don't hate the best part. The part that I don't know is, do we need to designate greater numbers than we have now?
Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to say too.
Which
Like we
I
don't
do feel like it is saying designating land, like as if there's more.
Mhm.
So greater numbers of wilderness area. So I guess like just one would be more. So I guess that is actually mild. So I would leave C, but I would be hesitant of like, do we have to designate more than we currently have?
Yeah.
I would be okay picking C if I hate D and E.
Okay. D, the multiple use philosophy takes into account some non-financial needs of the public. Does not necessarily violate, for even when such use does not provide, it can provide the. I don't hate D.
Oh, me either. Why
Yeah, I
not?
was gonna say I don't. It's not strong, and it kind of does tie into like, it's like a principle in the sense like and that's why it doesn't violate the principle. Like designating land, like our conclusion doesn't violate multiple use for this reason, and part of the principle is it doesn't. It takes into account some non-financial needs.
Yeah, because if what would happen if the multiple use philosophy does not take into account any financial needs?
Then it would destroy our conclusion.
Right. So let's go on to E.
The multiple use philosophy holds that the future needs of the public are more important than the present ones. Yeah, more important, strong. And it doesn't say that in the actual stimulus side there. It has to meet both. It
Yeah,
doesn't say.
we're not saying one is more important than the other.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
so now we're between, let's say we're between C and D. So how would we debate this? How would you go about this on the test then?
so if I was between the two, that's when I would use the negation test. So to negate C, the present and future needs of the public would not best be met by designating greater numbers of wilderness area. That doesn't destroy our conclusion.
Right, because
Yeah.
we don't care about this number.
No.
We're just saying like if it would happen, right, it would be fine. So we don't even know that if we need to do it. We're just saying that like it doesn't. We're saying like doing this would not violate it. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean that that we should do it or like.
Yeah, they're not arguing like this is the only way or something like that. So then, I mean, if to negate D, the multiple use philosophy does not take into account some non-financial needs of the public, then yeah, that would hurt, because that's our reasoning for why it doesn't violate it.
Yeah, and we said there must be something else that we can judge it by and as our prediction, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's D.
Okay. I feel better about this one.